Have you ever let one careless comment ruin your entire day? One insult, and boom, your emotions take the wheel, driving you straight into regret. But what if you could stop that? What if you could stand unshaken, no matter who pushes your buttons? This isn't about ignoring anger, it's about mastering it. The Stoics knew something most of us never learn. The battle isn't out there, it's in here. And once you win that war, nothing and no one can break your peace. Ready to become untouchable? Then keep watching, because it all starts now. You're still here, because something in you knows it's time to change. You're tired of being hijacked by emotions you didn't choose. Tired of that moment when anger explodes, too fast to stop, too late to take back. And afterward, regret, guilt. That heavy silence where you ask yourself, why did I say that? Why did I let it get to me? Let me tell you something powerful. You are not your anger. Let me say that again. You are not your anger. You weren't born slamming doors. You didn't come into this world ready to shout back at your boss, snap at your partner, or curse out a stranger in traffic. Those reactions, they were taught. They were trained by your environment, by stress, by pressure, and by a world that told you being loud means being strong. But here's the truth most men never hear. Real strength doesn't raise its voice. Real strength doesn't flinch. Real strength is quiet. It stands still when others shake. So let's break this illusion right now. Anger is not a personality trait. It's not just who you are. It's not your zodiac sign, your trauma, or your birthright. It's a habit, and every habit can be broken, but only if you first see it for what it is. Let's walk through it. Think back to a recent moment when you got angry. Maybe someone cut you off. Maybe your partner made a sarcastic comment. Maybe your boss disrespected you in front of a room full of people. Whatever it was, there was that spark, that trigger, and before your brain could catch up, your mouth opened. You fired back. Boom, reaction. Now here's what really happened. That was a chain reaction. Trigger, emotion, habitual response. Not a decision, not a strategy, just a pattern you've repeated so many times that it feels automatic. And that's the trap. When something feels automatic, we start believing it's natural. We start calling it our truth. We start saying, that's just how I am. But guess what? You weren't born angry. You learned to be angry. And if you learned it, you can unlearn it. That's where your power begins. The Stoics, men who lived thousands of years ago, understood this better than most modern minds do today. They didn't see anger as something noble or necessary. They saw it as what it really is, a form of weakness disguised as fire. Epictetus, once a slave, once a nobody, became a philosopher whose mind changed history. He said, "Any person capable of anger is a slave to it." Now that sounds harsh, but it's real. Because when you react without control, you're not free, you're predictable, you're manipulatable. You're emotionally exhausted. Let me put it another way. Every time you react blindly, you give someone else the remote to your peace. You hand over control of your mind to the very thing that triggered you. And you may not realize it, but that's how you stay stuck. Because every time you repeat the cycle, you reinforce it, you feed it. Let's be honest, you've blown up before, you've yelled. You've texted things you wish you hadn't. You've slammed doors, you've shut people out. But what did it give you? Did it solve the problem, or did it just multiply it? Here's what it probably gave you. More distance, more regret, more late-night overthinking. And a deeper gap between the man you are and the man you're trying to become. Now ask yourself, what if you paused instead? What if, right in the moment of the spark, You didn't feed the flame. What if you took that emotion, observed it like a storm rolling through the sky and let it pass? Because emotions, they're like weather. You can't stop the clouds from forming, but you can choose not to stand in the rain. That's what Stoicism trains you to do. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear, not about suppressing, about mastering. And that mastery isn't built in chaos. It's built in discipline, in silence, in choosing not to be triggered by things that used to own you. Here's something to reflect on. If the man in front of you yells and you don't respond, who's really in control? If someone tries to get under your skin and you stay still, you haven't lost, you've won. Because nothing is more unsettling to a chaotic person than a calm man who cannot be moved. Anger wants to rush. It wants you to act fast, without thinking. But clarity lives in the pause, and that pause is what we'll explore in the next section. Because once you learn how to hold space between trigger and response, you don't just avoid problems, you rewrite your identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't give their energy away to nonsense. You become steady, grounded, and in command. So as we move forward, keep this in mind. Anger is not a sign of passion. It's not a badge of masculinity. It's a test. A test of whether you control yourself or you let the world push your buttons like a machine. You are not your habits. You are what you choose to practice. And if you can practice calm, daily, deliberately, consistently, you will become untouchable. So here's your first challenge. The next time something sparks you, pause, even for 2 seconds. Just enough to break the chain, because in that pause you don't just stop the habit, you reclaim your freedom. And in the next section, we're going to take that further. We'll go deeper into what real strength looks like. Not strength over others, but strength over self. Because controlling your world starts with controlling your response to it. So now you see it. Anger isn't who you are. It's a habit, a loop, a reaction. And like any habit, it can be unlearned, reshaped, replaced. But once you break the illusion that anger defines you, you're faced with a much bigger question. If I'm not ruled by my reactions, then who's really in charge? Here's the hard truth. You are. And that responsibility is both terrifying and liberating. Because once you realize that you control you, you're out of excuses. You can't blame your temper on your job. You can't blame your reactions on your parents. You can't say, that's just how I was raised, not anymore. The Stoics didn't teach men how to dominate others. They taught men how to master themselves, because that's where real power lives, not in titles, not in money, not in how loud you shout. Power is being able to walk through fire, calm, clear, and unmoved. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let's break that down. The world. It's chaos. People are rude. Plans fall apart. You get blamed for things you didn't do. You get talked down to, disrespected, pushed to your edge. But none of that has the power to define you, unless you let it. That's what separates a boy from a man. Not age, not muscle. Control, emotional self-discipline. The ability to choose your response, even when everything in you wants to lash out. Let me paint the picture. You're in a meeting. You've worked for days on an idea. You present it, and your manager in front of everyone cuts you off, mocks the concept, dismisses you. You feel the heat in your chest. Your fists want to clench. You're about to say something sharp, something you'll regret. But then you remember, you don't owe this man your peace, so you breathe, you pause. You look him in the eye and say, "Thanks for the feedback. I'll take another look." And then you move on. Later, in private, you can choose your moment. You speak with clarity, not fire. You keep your voice steady, not to sound polite, but because you own it. That's power. That's dominance without barking. That's composure when others expect you to crack. And you know what happens in that moment? People listen, not because you're loud, but because you're different, because you don't flinch. Now let's be clear, this isn't about being soft. This isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about walking away with your dignity intact. Anyone can scream, anyone can throw punches, slam doors, fire off angry texts. That's easy. What's hard? Staying composed, holding the line. Refusing to let someone else dictate your emotional state. Because here's what most men don't realize. When you react blindly, you're not in control. You're being controlled. You think you're showing strength, but really, you're proving how easy you are to manipulate. A calm man. He's dangerous, not because he wants control over others, but because he's not moved by their chaos. He chooses his moment. He decides when and how to respond. Not because he's afraid, but because he's precise. And let me tell you something else. Your silence isn't weakness. Your pause isn't surrender. It's strategy. It's self-respect. It's leadership over yourself first and others second. So here's what I want you to take from this. The next time someone talks down to you, the next time someone crosses your boundary, the next time the heat rises in your gut, don't bark, don't bite, don't perform. Instead, pause, breathe, remind yourself this is a test. And I've trained for this, because that's exactly what it is. A test, not of who's right, not of who's louder, but of who's in control. And when you stay in control, you always win. You might lose the argument, you might not get the last word, but you'll walk away with something they can't touch. Your energy, your clarity, your power, and that's what Stoicism is about. Not avoiding conflict, but choosing your battlefield and staying sharp when it comes. So what's next? Now that you understand where real power comes from, we're going to start building the discipline to hold it. Because self-mastery isn't a switch you flip, it's a muscle you train. And in the next section, we'll show you how to build that muscle daily, deliberately, through real-world rituals. Because calm isn't a gift, it's a skill. And the man who trains for it wins before the fight even begins. You've made it this far because something in you is ready to stop living on autopilot. In the last section, we broke the illusion that real power comes from controlling others. It doesn't. It comes from controlling yourself. But here's the problem. Most people think self-control shows up when they need it. That somehow in the heat of an argument or the chaos of life, they'll magically be calm, strong, grounded. Focused. That's a lie. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. And if you haven't trained for emotional control, you won't have it when it counts. Let me ask you something. Would you walk into a gym, never having lifted a weight, and try to bench 300 pounds? Of course not. So why do we expect our minds, our emotional muscles, to hold steady under pressure if we never train them? This is the difference between men who snap and men who stay sharp. Between those who explode and regret it and those who stay still and own the moment. Emotional control isn't some switch you flip. It's not some hack you find in a podcast or a 5-step trick in a self-help book. It's a skill, a discipline. And like any discipline, it's built day by day through small actions that look invisible to the world, but build something unshakable inside you. Let me give it to you straight. If you wait until you're angry to practice self-control, you've already lost. If you wait until life disrespects you to decide how you'll respond, you'll default to your worst habits. The men who own themselves, they don't wait for the test. They train every single day so that when the test comes, they're already ready. How? Through small, consistent, intentional actions. Not once a week, every single day. Let's break it down. Wake up early, not to prove anything to anyone, but to own your time before the world grabs it. Journal your thoughts. Not some fluffy gratitude log, real reflection. What triggered you yesterday? What did you regret saying? What pattern are you seeing in yourself that needs to shift? Practice breathing. That's right, train your breath. The breath is the remote control to your nervous system. If you can control your breath, you can control your reactions. Just 10 slow, deep breaths a day, and you're rewiring your brain to pause under pressure. Sit with discomfort. Not every urge needs a reaction. Not every itch needs to be scratched. Train yourself to feel a wave of emotion and not move. Not distract yourself. Not escape it. Just observe it. Hold your tongue. When someone says something stupid, you don't always have to correct them. When someone disrespects you slightly, you don't have to strike back. Train restraint, because not every fight is worth entering, and the strongest man in the room often says the least. Cut the noise. Stop flooding your mind with garbage, social media outrage, reactive news cycles, endless commentary. Your mind is a weapon. Keep it sharp, keep it clean. Create a daily routine that challenges your emotions. Cold showers, intense workouts, difficult conversations. Push your limits in controlled environments, so when real chaos comes, you've already been through the fire. Now you might be thinking, that all sounds like a lot. I don't have time for all this. But let me ask you, how much time have you lost to emotional fallout? How many hours have you spent ruminating on a comment someone made? How many days have you wasted in anger, frustration, resentment? That's the real cost. You're not too busy to train. You're too distracted not to. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to become a monk, but you do need to commit, because this is how warriors are built. Not in battle, but in preparation. Think of any elite performer, an athlete, a soldier, a leader. They don't wait until game day to prepare. They train every single day, so that when the moment comes, they don't just survive, they dominate. And so can you. Imagine this. You're walking through your front door after a long, exhausting day. Your kid accidentally knocks over a glass of water right onto your laptop. Your gut reaction fires, yell, scold, snap. But you've been training. You've practiced the pause, you breathe, you say, let's clean it up together. That's a rep. That's a victory. That's emotional strength in action. And here's the thing, those little reps, they compound. They build a man who doesn't flinch when life tests him. They build a mind that responds instead of reacts. They build you into someone you deeply respect. And that's what this is all about. Self-respect, not performing for others. Not impressing strangers, just being able to look in the mirror and know, I didn't lose it today. I didn't give away my power. I showed up as the man I'm becoming. This is what Stoicism was built for, not philosophers sitting on mountaintops, but real men. In real life, with stress, deadlines, bills, kids, pressure, insults, injustice, life doesn't get easier. You just get better, and the only way to get better is to train. So stop waiting for the big moment to prove your growth. Train for it now, so when it comes, you don't flinch. And in the next section, we're going to face a deeper enemy, attachment, the silent weight that keeps you reacting, clinging, suffering. Because once you learn how to build calm, you need to learn how to protect it, and that starts by letting go of what doesn't serve you. Let's get into it. You've been training, you're building the discipline, you're starting to understand what real emotional control looks like. But here's the next challenge, and it's not an easy one. You have to learn to let go. Because no matter how hard you train, no matter how calm you become, if you're still clinging to everything that's out of your hands, you'll stay frustrated. You'll stay tense. And you'll keep losing battles you were never meant to fight in the first place. Let me be clear, you don't lose peace because of the problem itself. You lose it because of how tightly you hold on to how you thought things were supposed to go. Let's make it real. You wake up with a plan. You've got the day mapped out. Morning workout, tight schedule, productive meetings. Then suddenly, traffic. Your first meeting gets cancelled. Your boss drops a last-minute task on your desk. The whole plan, out the window. Now your chest is tight. You're annoyed. You're ready to throw the whole day away. But pause. Ask yourself, are you angry because things changed or because you expected them not to? That's the trap. We expect control in a world that guarantees none. We expect the weather, the people, the timing, the energy to go our way. And when it doesn't, we resist. We push back. We cling harder. But here's the truth that Stoicism teaches, one you need to tattoo on your mindset. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. The more you try to grip what isn't yours to hold, the more you suffer. And suffering isn't proof of toughness. Suffering from the uncontrollable is proof that you haven't let go. Letting go isn't weakness. Letting go is strength applied with precision. It's the clarity to know where your energy belongs and where it doesn't. Because let's face it, you only have so much energy in a day. Every moment you waste being pissed about traffic, or that one person who didn't text back, or the co-worker who messed up the report, that's energy stolen from your focus, from your goals, from your mental health. And the person or problem that triggered you, they're not even thinking about you. But you're burning hours, maybe even days, replaying the moment over and over like a movie on loop. Why? Because you won't release it, you won't let it pass. You think holding on gives you control. But in truth, it's what's keeping you stuck. Here's the shift. You don't have to like what happened, but you do have to accept it. Because resistance to reality is wasted strength. Let me say that again. Resistance to reality is wasted strength. Imagine this. You're in a parking lot. Someone backs into your car, there's a dent, and when you confront them, they just shrug. No apology. No accountability. Every part of you wants to explode, yell. Make them feel what you feel. You want justice, but ask yourself, what's justice really going to look like here? Will yelling fix the dent? Will rage rewind time? No. But staying calm, filing the paperwork, taking care of what needs to be done, moving on with your energy intact, that's power. Because the dent isn't the problem. Losing your peace over it is. This is the real Stoic move. Don't give more than what's already been taken. If someone damages your car, they don't also get your mood. If someone cuts you off, they don't also get your focus. If someone disrespects you, they don't also get your night, your energy, your sleep. You keep those because you've trained for this. You know what's yours to carry and what's not. And listen, letting go doesn't mean letting people off the hook. It means taking yourself off the hook they're dangling. It means no longer being a slave to every bump in the road. It means saving your strength for what truly matters. The Stoics didn't waste time on what they couldn't change. They conserved energy like warriors before battle, only spending it where it would actually create impact. They didn't scream at the storm, they adjusted their sails. So here's your practice. When something upsets you, before reacting, stop and ask, is this in my control? If yes, act. Respond with strength, set the boundary. take the step. If no, release it. Don't carry it any further. And here's where the next level kicks in. It's not enough to just know this once. You have to live it daily, because life will keep throwing distractions at you, delays. Disrespect, setbacks, you can't control that. But you can control how much space you give it inside your mind. And in the next section, we're going to test that mindset, because it's easy to stay calm when no one's challenging you. But what happens when someone comes for your pride, your status, your character? Do you react or do you rise? We'll show you how to turn conflict into a weapon for your growth instead of a trigger for your downfall. Because once you learn to let go of what doesn't serve you, you create space for something far greater. Mastery in the middle of the storm. Let's keep going. By now you've started to shift. You've learned how to let go of what you can't control. You've stopped wasting your energy on things that were never yours to carry. But now comes the real test. What do you do when the fight finds you anyway? Because no matter how disciplined, composed, or calm you become, conflict will come. Someone will talk down to you. Someone will cross the line. Someone will challenge your values, your work, your character. That's not a flaw in the system. That's life. But here's the difference between most men and the Stoic man. Most men see conflict as a threat. A Stoic sees it as a mirror. A training ground. A test of mastery, because conflict doesn't build character, it reveals it. Let's be honest. We all know that moment. The room heats up, voices rise, pride gets bruised. And the old instinct kicks in: defend, fight, attack. Win. But what if winning doesn't look like domination? What if it looks like discipline? What if it looks like restraint? That's what this section is all about. Reframing conflict. Not as a threat to your strength, but as proof of it. Let me give you a scenario. You're standing in line, you've been waiting patiently, and then out of nowhere, some guy walks past everyone, cuts the line, and pretends not to notice you. You feel it in your chest, your jaw tightens. You want to say something loud, direct, confrontational. But pause for a second. What's actually at risk here? Your time, your ego, or your peace? This moment isn't about the guy in front of you. It's about the man inside you. This is your training ground, because if you explode, you become exactly what the world expects. Another emotionally volatile man who can't hold his composure when tested. But if you pause, if you breathe, if you decide, this isn't worth my energy, that's not surrender, that's power. Let's be real. Anyone can react. But the man who responds with intention, he's dangerous in a different way, because he doesn't waste his weapons on small battles. You might be thinking, but what if people walk all over me? What if silence makes me weak? That's the common lie. That if you don't shout back, you're soft. That if you don't clap back, you've lost status. But think about it. When someone loses control in front of you, do they gain your respect? Or do they look like a child throwing a tantrum? Exactly. Stillness is power. Calmness is command. You don't need to dominate people. You need to dominate yourself in the face of provocation. Because let's face it, most of the conflict you deal with isn't about truth, it's about egos. And when two egos go to war, everyone loses. So the next time conflict knocks on your door, ask yourself, is this a real threat or just a loud distraction? Is this worth engaging, or is this a test I've been training for? And if you do need to speak, do it with clarity, not rage, with conviction, not noise. Because Stoicism doesn't mean staying silent forever. It means choosing your moment and choosing your tone. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He faced betrayal, war, and political chaos, but he didn't let those battles steal his mind. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's Stoic mastery. Not matching disrespect with more disrespect, but refusing to lower yourself to meet it. So here's the strategy. Conflict happens. Expect it. Your response is the test. Own it. Your calm is your advantage. Protect it. Every time you respond with control, every time you walk away without engaging in nonsense, you don't just protect your peace, you level up your power. Because when you can't be baited, when you can't be triggered, when chaos knocks and you don't open the door, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean avoiding confrontation. It means choosing your battlefield, refusing to bleed in wars that don't deserve your fire. So next time someone disrespects you, don't see it as an attack. See it as an opportunity to train, to hold, to sharpen, to rise. Because while others are reacting, you're building. While others are fighting to be right, you're staying aligned with what matters. And when you do that, you stop being reactive and start being respected. And that's where we're headed next. Because if you really want to master yourself, you need to stop living in past grudges or future assumptions. You need to bring your focus to the only moment that matters, right now. In the next section, we'll dive into what happens when your imagination hijacks your emotions, and how presence isn't just peace, it's your greatest weapon. Let's keep moving forward. You've faced the fire, you've chosen calm over chaos, you've learned to hold your ground without losing your mind. But there's still one enemy left, one that's even more dangerous than the people who trigger you. More toxic than conflict, more persistent than stress, and it lives inside your own head. It's your imagination, that voice that replays old arguments, relives past insults, and builds entire scenarios in your mind. Scenarios that haven't even happened, but still ruin your mood. Let's be clear, most of your pain doesn't come from reality. It comes from the story you tell yourself about reality. That's why mastering the present moment isn't optional, it's essential. Because until you learn to stay grounded in now, you'll keep reacting to ghosts and suffering for things that only exist in your mind. Let's break it down. You get cut off in traffic. 3 seconds of inconvenience, but you spend the next 30 minutes replaying it, cursing under your breath. Imagining what you should have done, what you could have said. Now you're late, tense, and short with the people around you, not because of what happened, but because you dragged it with you. That's not a traffic problem, that's a presence problem. You weren't there anymore. You were caught in a mental movie that only you could see, and it doesn't stop with traffic. Think about how many times you've walked into a conversation with someone, already assuming how it would go. Bracing for disrespect, expecting an argument, and then you showed up already tense, already defensive, responding to a script that hadn't even played yet. That's how your imagination hijacks your peace. But here's the truth, you only ever have one moment. This one, the past, it's over, the future. It doesn't exist yet. All your control, all your clarity, all your power, it lives in the present. And the Stoics knew this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That's not morbid, it's freeing. It's a call to stop drifting, to snap back into what actually matters. Let me ask you, how many times have you rehearsed a conversation that never happened, worried about a problem that never came, held on to a memory that should have been released years ago? That's not strength, that's mental weight, and it's costing you clarity. So how do you fix it? You train your mind the same way you train your body, with reps, with awareness. With discipline, start simple, breathe, notice your breath when emotions rise. Use it as your anchor. 3 deep breaths can snap you back to now. Feel your body. feet on the ground, shoulders back. Bring your awareness out of your thoughts and into your posture. Name what's real. Say to yourself, right now I'm okay. Right now I'm breathing. Right now I have control. Because most of your emotional spirals aren't real events. They're thought loops. And a loop loses power the moment you name it. Delay interpretation. Not everything needs to be labeled. Not every look is an insult. Not every silence is disrespect. Sometimes it's just life. Let go of the story. Stay with what's happening, not what you think it means. And yes, it takes practice. You're not going to become fully present overnight. You'll still drift, still get triggered. But each time you catch yourself, each time you return to now, that's a rep. That's progress, that's power, because presence is not passivity. It's precision, it's you choosing to respond to reality, not to illusion. And when you live that way, you stop overreacting to shadows. You stop carrying what isn't yours. You stop missing the only thing that's ever real, this moment. Think about the last time you snapped at someone. Were you reacting to what they said, or to what you thought they meant? Were you angry at them, or still dragging anger from a different moment? That's the danger of being absent. You confuse the past with the present, and contaminate both. But when you're present, you see more. You hear better, you think clearly, you choose instead of react. And let's be honest, the man who can stay fully present in a world addicted to distraction, that man becomes unstoppable. He doesn't get pulled into fake drama. He doesn't chase every thought. He doesn't get lost in what if and what was. He owns now, and that makes him a force no one can shake. So here's the challenge. Train presence like a warrior. Start with 30 seconds a day. Notice your breath. Look around you. Come back to your body. No phone. No noise. Just now. Build from there. 1 minute. 5, 10. Because this isn't a spiritual practice, it's survival. In a world that wants to steal your focus, presence is your shield. And once you've built that, you're ready for what comes next, letting go of the final weight, the hidden burden that drags your energy, clouds your thoughts, and chains you to the past, resentment. In the next section, we're going to confront it head-on and show you how forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the power move most men never make. Let's go. You've made it far. You've learned to control your breath, your thoughts, your presence. You're not reacting to every conflict. You're no longer a slave to outside chaos. But there's one thing left. One thing that will silently poison all your progress if you don't face it. Resentment. Let me tell you something most people won't. Resentment doesn't just live in your mind. It lives in your body. It weighs on your chest. It shows up in your posture. In how tense your jaw is when you wake up. In how shallow your breath gets when someone mentions that name. In the way your mood shifts when you're reminded of what they did. This isn't just emotional. This is physical. And if you don't deal with it, it will age you faster than time ever could. Because here's the truth, holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to suffer. They've moved on, they're sleeping fine. They're living their life, but you're dragging that weight into every conversation, every new relationship, every silent night where your mind just won't shut off. You think you've buried it. You haven't. You've just carried it deeper. So let's dig it up, let's face it, let's finally learn to let go. Not for them. For you. You see, most people think forgiveness means saying, it's okay, what you did didn't hurt me. But that's not Stoicism. That's denial. The Stoic path says, yes, you hurt me, but I refuse to let that pain define me. Forgiveness isn't approval. It's freedom. It's saying, you don't get to live in my head rent-free anymore. Think about it. How many times have you snapped at someone who had nothing to do with what really bothered you? How many innocent people have caught the shrapnel from a grudge you've been holding for years? That's the cost of resentment. It doesn't just affect how you feel about the past, it controls who you become in the present. The man who clings to resentment can't lead, can't love fully, can't breathe deeply. Because he's always on guard, always waiting to be hurt again, always stuck in a cycle of defense. But the man who lets go, he gets to walk lighter, he gets to move freely. He gets to show up clear, clean, and unburdened. You want to be that man, so how do you get there? Start with this. Tell the truth. Be honest about what still hurts. Say it to yourself. Write it down. Speak it out loud if you need to. Don't minimize it. Don't numb it. Face it like a warrior, because the only way out is through. Then ask yourself, what is this resentment costing me? Is it stealing your sleep? Is it clouding your relationships? Is it making you reactive, cold, distant? That's not protection, that's punishment. And here's the breakthrough. You don't need to wait for an apology to let go. Let that sink in. You don't need closure. You don't need them to admit they were wrong. You don't need the perfect conversation, the right timing, or the fantasy ending. You need one thing, the decision to stop bleeding from a wound they're not even holding anymore. That's forgiveness, not for their sake, but so you can breathe again. Epictetus said it best. You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can control my will. What does that mean? It means you can't always control what people do to you, but you can decide what lives inside of you. And when you drop resentment, you reclaim that inner space. That fire, that focus, that strength you've been leaking into the past. Now, some of you are thinking, but if I let go, doesn't that mean they win? No, it means you're done playing a game they stopped playing long ago. It means you're mature enough to walk away without needing revenge. It means you're strong enough to protect your peace without anyone's permission. And here's the beautiful part. When you release that resentment, you don't become passive, you become powerful. Because you're no longer walking through life looking for payback. You're looking forward. You're not acting from pain. You're acting from presence. You're not reacting to old wounds. You're responding to new opportunities. And that's what the next level is all about. Because once you've dropped the weight, you can finally move with precision. You can finally respond like a master, not from rage. Not from revenge, but from clarity. And that clarity, it comes in the pause. That's where we're headed next. In the final section, we'll go deep into the space between trigger and reaction. The moment that decides everything, where strength is either won or lost. So if you're ready to become unshakable in the face of pressure, let's go there. You've done the work, you've built discipline, you've let go of what you can't control. You've released the dead weight of resentment. You've learned to stay grounded in the present. But there's one final piece. One habit that separates men who are reactive from men who are unshakable. It's the pause. That tiny space between what happens and what you do next. That's your battlefield, not the insult, not the argument. Not the chaos around you. The real fight happens in that first half second where instinct says explode, but wisdom says wait. You see, most men live on a hair trigger. They're walking landmines, ready to snap, yell, slam a door, fire off a text before they even realize what they're doing. And the damage? It's done. Before their brain has even caught up with their mouth. Sound familiar? It's because we've all been there. But here's the truth. That moment, the pause, is where your power lives. When you don't pause, you default. You default to emotion, to programming, to your worst habits, to the version of you that's easy to manipulate, easy to provoke, easy to control. But when you pause, you intercept the reaction, you break the pattern. You choose. You don't just react like every other man, you respond like a man who owns himself. Let me paint it clearly. You're home, long day. Tired. Your teenage son talks back, tone sharp, disrespect dripping from every word. Your fists clench. Your chest tightens. You're milliseconds away from yelling, from snapping, from making it worse. But then you pause. You breathe. You feel the pressure in your chest, and instead of reacting, you say, "I'm going to respond in a minute." Just like that, you've won. Not because you walked away, but because you didn't give the moment more power than it deserved, and in doing so, you taught your son something no speech could deliver. This is how a strong man handles conflict. With control. With clarity, with purpose. You want to lead. Start there, because in that pause you show everyone, most of all yourself, that you're not just trained for peace. You're trained for war without chaos. Here's what most men don't get. The pause isn't about being passive. It's not about avoiding confrontation. It's about gaining clarity. It's about calculating your next move instead of being dragged into someone else's storm. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't act unless what you're about to do serves the greater good." That greater good, it might be your family, your dignity, your mental clarity, your long-term relationships. It's not about winning in the heat of the moment. It's about winning your life over time. Let's be real. The world rewards speed. React fast, reply now, make your point loud. But emotional mastery doesn't live in speed, it lives in accuracy. Anyone can speak first. But the man who speaks last, with wisdom, with composure, with impact, he's the one who changes the room. So how do you build the pause? Like everything else in this series, you train it. When someone interrupts you, pause. When someone challenges you, pause. When you feel the adrenaline spike, pause. When that old trigger shows up, pause. And in that pause, ask yourself, is this reaction worth it? What's the outcome I want here? Will this make me stronger or just louder? It doesn't take hours, it takes seconds. Seconds that will rewrite your future, because the pause protects you from regret. It gives your logic a chance to speak before your ego takes the mic. And over time, it becomes instinct. You go from reacting like the man you used to be to responding like the man you're becoming. The man who doesn't waste energy on the trivial. The man who doesn't escalate, he elevates. The man who doesn't get baited, he builds boundaries. And commands the room without ever raising his voice. This is your final weapon. The pause is what turns discipline into dominance. What turns reaction into precision? What turns your practice into power? And once you master it, you don't just win arguments. You win yourself, because at the end of the day, this entire journey, from anger to calm to presence to letting go, it all leads here, to the moment where you stop living on default and start living by design, where you respond like a man who knows what he stands for, what he's building, what he refuses to let control him ever again. And here's the best part. You can start now, today, this hour, this breath. The next time the pressure rises, don't rush. Pause. Own it. Decide, because the man who controls the pause controls the outcome. And that's not just stoicism, that's freedom. You've made it through the fire, not just by hearing the words, but by understanding what they really mean. Because now you know. You are not your anger. You are not your past. You are not what they did to you. You are what you choose in the pause. Every time you stop, breathe, and respond with discipline, you're proving that your mind belongs to you. not to your emotions, not to your triggers, not to your past conditioning. That's what Stoicism is. It's not about being cold. It's not about being passive. It's about being unbreakable in a world that wants to pull you apart. You've learned how to break the habit of anger, master yourself, not others, train calm like a muscle, let go of what you can't control, use conflict as fuel, stay anchored in the present, drop the weight of resentment, and own the pause before every reaction. But this doesn't end here. This is day one, because this mindset, it's a lifestyle, a daily practice. And the man who shows up to it day after day, he becomes unstoppable. So if this message hit home, don't just leave it here. Subscribe to this channel for weekly tools that sharpen your discipline and deepen your clarity. Hit the like button if you're ready to start showing up as the strongest version of yourself. Drop a comment below. What moment tested you recently? What lessons stuck with you most? Let's grow together. Let's lead with stillness. And let's become the kind of men the world can't shake. This is Stoic strength. And this is just the beginning.